Okay, we're ready to start the meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you'll please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now we remember the people that we lost during the past year. Francis Joyelle, he was a town meeting member in Precinct 3. Jane Gems, she was a town meeting member, Precinct 3. Carmine Caboni, town meeting member, Precinct 1. Kenneth Sullivan, town meeting member, Precinct 3. Ann Weston, town meeting member, Precinct 1. Thank you. Just a few things to remind people. The town meeting seated in front of the divide back there, please. There's no town meetings behind the divide, because the counters are only going to count the people on this side. So the town meeting members are in the front section. Everybody else who's not a town meeting in the back section. Please silence or turn your cell phones off. If you wish to address the meeting, please wait to be recognized by me. If you are reading one of the motions, please sign the first line before reading it, and then bring it up here and give it to the town clerk. There's 2 microphones, I believe, located in the front. Please come to the meeting, come to the microphones if you wish to speak at the meeting. Then identify yourself by name and precinct. That's for the record. If you are making a motion to second an article, just keep your hand raised so they can get your name, that's all. And when an article needs to be counted, please keep your hands raised until the 2 counters can agree on how many people in that section had voted. Thank you. Article 1. You hear the reports of the Finance Committee, other town offices and committees, or to act on anything relative thereto. Mr. Hussey.
Mr. Moderator, thank you. This is the Finance Committee report. Good evening, and thanks for your participation in the annual town meeting process. The Finance Committee has completed its review of the Town of Auburn's budget and CIP for fiscal 2020, which you have before you now. I would like to acknowledge the hard work by our committee, and I appreciate their commitment to adding value to the annual budget process. The $69.7 million 2020 budget before you represents a $1.6 million or a 2.35% increase from the final 2019 budget. The proposed operating budget increases by $2.7 million over the prior year. The largest increases in the operating budget include for items $1.1 million or a 4.2% increase in the school department operating budget, including various staff adds and other changes that you will hear in Dr. Brunel's report. $1.0 million or a 9.4% increase in employee benefits, which includes a $650,000 or 9% estimated increase in group health insurance, and a nearly $350,000 or 12% increase in the Worcester County Retirement Plan. $358,000 or a 7% increase at the Department of Public Works, attributed in part to increased assessments from the Upper Blackstone Water Pollution Abatement District, and the addition of a civil engineer position to address new state and federal mandated stormwater management requirements. And the final large addition to the budget or increase, $210,000 increase in the reserve fund as multiple union contracts are currently under negotiation. Please note that partially offsetting these increases is a nearly $360,000 decrease in debt and interest payments on our outstanding financial obligations. That's a great number. In addition, group insurance, please be reminded, is very conservatively estimated, and also final cherry sheet receipts and free cash offsets, they'll be excluded until the fall town meeting. The preliminary tax rate increase for 2020 calculates, as I mentioned, to 2.35%. This follows a 0.74% increase in the final fiscal 19 budget. Cherry sheet receipts are expected to increase by $865,000 in fiscal 2020 to $14.3 million, which would represent 20.5% of projected revenue sources compared to 19.9% over the prior fiscal year. All revenue projections continue to adhere to our financial policies, which are conservative by design. In summary, the fiscal year 2020 budget process went as anticipated, with general agreement on Beacon Hill regarding local aid, although it's not yet finalized, including another substantial increase in Chapter 70 aid. Local revenues continue to meet and exceed budgeted expectations, and our amended free cash policy is allowing the town to address secondary capital needs without additional taxation on residences and businesses in our community. Once again, this will happen in the fall. Warrant articles before you tonight include various standard annual articles, the annual $500,000 contribution to the OPEB trust account, CIP repurposings, and various citizen petitions and other requests. Regarding the warrant articles, the Finance Committee takes the following positions. Articles 2 through 28, yes. Articles 29 and 30, defer to petitioner. Article 31, yes. Article 32, 33, and 34, defer to petitioner. Respectfully submitted, Kevin Hussey, Chair, Ann Kavanaugh, Vice Chair, Ed Coleman, Kimberly Holstrom, Mallory O'Brien, Kevin Kennedy, and Trevor Sansucci. Thank you.
Thank you. And now the Board of Selectmen, Chairwoman Doreen Goodrich.
Good evening, town meeting members. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen is pleased to recommend the budget prepared by town administration and presented to the Finance Committee. The financial policies once again play a key role in the budget process. These financial policies, adopted by the Board of Selectmen, School Committee, and Finance Committee, help the town to continue its financial stability. The long-term planning has enabled us to look out 5, 10, and 20 years for the town's needs. The Board of Selectmen wants to make the following recommendations on the annual town meeting warrant. Article 2, the Board of Selectmen makes no recommendation on this article. Articles 3 through 32, the Board of Selectmen voted to recommend approval. On Article 33, the Board of Selectmen voted to recommend approval after lengthy discussion. And Article 34, the Board of Selectmen voted to defer to the petitioner. Respectfully submitted, Doreen Goodrich, Chairman, Ken Holstrom, Vice Chairman, Daniel S. Carpenter, Lionel R. Berthium, and Tristan J. Lo Liberty. Thank you.
Town Manager, Ms. Jacobson.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I promise to be brief. Everyone always says, how long is she going to take this time? I'm actually being timed by Eddie, so I'm under a lot of pressure here. I just want to recognize that we have a lot of articles this evening, so I do have a full PowerPoint presentation. I feel it's important that the town meeting members understand where your budget is being spent and what your tax dollars are being spent on, but I am going to go very quickly through it. I'm happy to go back to it or answer any questions later. I'm just going to try to focus on those slides that are financial in nature or have something specific to do with one of the articles. So, obviously you know all the different aspects of where your tax dollars go, all the different departments that it funds. You see that in your budget this evening. I want to just focus on a couple of highlights from fiscal year 19. We were able to maintain our Standard & Poor's bond rating of AA+. We were actually able to receive additional written approval for some financial policies that we put into place. Once again, we've been able to increase free cash, our excess levy, our stabilization fund, and our reserves. We went through a lengthy process to update our 5-year facility improvement plan. We launched a new financial transparency center through ClearGov that you can see online. If you haven't done so yet, you can see all of our town finances on there. It's a phenomenal tool, and we thank town meeting because you appropriated the funds for us to do that last year. We created a new procurement page and a bid system on the website. We implemented a new online permitting system that we received through a grant. We completed the swimming pool feasibility study. We applied for a $188,000 grant for Leesville Pond Dam, which we did receive, so that offsets the capital funds that you had approved for us last year. The golf course, once again, ended up in a net profit over $50,000. We did initiate the LED streetlight project that town meeting approved, and we received a grant for $239,000 to offset that as well. We applied for it and received $20,000 of the Stanton Foundation for the design grant, and the remaining $180,000 will follow as soon as that's finished. We created a new public outreach campaign on recycling. We developed a designer selection policy and procedure. We appointed a committee, and we initiated the feasibility study for the public safety complex. That is underway, and again, thank you for town meeting for funding that through free cash last year. And we are in the process of our second annual Citizens Leadership Academy. Again, Ed Kazanovich, CFO, town accountant, assistant town manager, he's going to go through all the financial. I just think it's important to point to the fact that every year we're consistent. We have very strong conservative financial management. We adhere to our written policies, which is a huge asset. We have conservative budgeting. We continued with our 5-year CIP, a 5-year facility improvement plan, a 5-year long-range plan. We continue to implement health insurance reforms. We have a very strong health trust fund. All of these financial strategies lead to an excellent bond rating, lower borrowing costs, again, increases in free cash reserves and excess levy, which again help our bond rating, and continued investment into stabilization, OPEB, and have all led to very strong independent audit results. As we have promised, we are consistently increasing our reserves. This is important as the bond ratings consistently raise the level of what we need to have. A couple of years ago, that level was 10%, then it became 12%, then 18%, then 20%, and now it's 25%, and we are at the 25%. We have increased our free cash. We continue to make investments into the OPEB trust fund. It gathers interest. At this point, we have $4,447,938 in it. We still have an outstanding unfunded liability of $27 million, so it's critical that we focus on OPEB and continue to do this. We have increased our expendable health trust over the years, so we're in decent shape, but we're managing our health costs. They are going up, as you heard the chair of the Finance Committee. It is inevitable. It's going to continue to happen, but with the reforms that we make, we can mitigate that. I want to focus a little bit on economic development just really quickly. This was the first full year that we have had an economic development coordinator in place, Shannon Reagan, and through that we've been able to advance a lot of our economic development strategies, work with the Economic Development Committee, working with the Business Roundtable, and we've been able to put forth a lot of initiatives, some of which you'll see here this evening. We applied for and received a $15,000 downtown technical assistance grant for Drury Square. You're going to see a lot of focus on Drury Square. We're excited about it. This goes back to the 2006 master plan where Drury Square was identified as something that we really should be focused on for pedestrian enhancement, business development, infrastructure improvements. It's ongoing now with our master plan process now. The Economic Development Strategy Plan from 2017, the Drury Square Vision Plan from 2017, all identify the need to focus our efforts on Drury Square as a downtown for Auburn. You will see that in Article 32. You'll see the Drury Square District bylaw that has been proposed. That has gone through over the past year a series of 8 hearings. We had 2 special meetings just for town meeting members to invite you to learn more about it. We also have Article 26, which you saw all the boards outside, and we thank those of you who were able to make it last Wednesday. We had a special meeting for town meeting to come and learn about this project. You're going to learn more about it. We had another great session before this evening, and hopefully we were able to answer questions for people that might have come early to have them. We're getting a new guide for startup businesses, and we're continuing to work on the school redevelopment projects. We have some good news on, we're moving forward on the Mary D. project first, and then the Julia Bancroft project second. The developer is moving forward, has applied for tax credits, and as recently as 3 days ago, was awarded tax credits from the state for the historic. So that was a major, major hurdle to overcome. So we should start seeing things move a little faster now on Mary D. Stone. I won't go through it, but all of these business development and economic development efforts are paying off. Just try to put up some businesses recently completed within the last year or so. We've got a number of projects that are underway and a number of projects that are proposed. All of this leads to enhanced jobs, increased tax base, and positive economic activity for the community. We continue to invest in our multi-year roadway improvement program. This year, putting in $1.64 million. And that includes Chapter 90 funds. We remain a model statewide for our 20-year roadway investment program, and I want to thank DPW Director Bill Coyle and Joanna Paquin, our civil engineer, for keeping up with that plan. It's an outstanding plan. You can see the work taking place, and we thank town meeting members for allowing us to put $525,000 into the budget every year to augment what we get from the state. I'm not going to go through these. You all know the departments and how hard they work. Just think it's important to just put up a couple of highlights so you can see. Continue to do a lot of work with facility management, fleet maintenance, saving dollars to the residents by doing the work in-house, both on our buildings and on our fleet. Development and inspectional services, you'll see a lot of their work over time. We've got a new Building Safety Month right now. We're in a very enhanced outreach program for recycling. We've got economic development materials, and I'll get into that in a minute, and constant outreach through the Board of Health. Fire Rescue Department, another banner year with calls, if you can call it that. Unfortunately, 3,768 emergency calls this year, again, the highest in the 101-year history of the fire department. Still very involved in training, community outreach, and other programs for education in the community. Police Department, again, another large year, over 21,000 calls for service. They're involved in a number of different community events, really give back to the community through their association, and do a great job on behalf of the town. Public services, if you haven't been to the library recently, I highly suggest that you go there. There's great programs. The programs sell out quickly. The biggest complaint we're getting is that the programs sell out quickly and there aren't enough slots because the space is small, but we've got some phenomenal programs there. The Senior Center has some great projects that are going on up there, some great programs. Veteran Services, we're actually enhancing and adding to our Veteran Services benefits. We have a new Veterans Director, and Auburn Cable Television. Continue with our communications and outreach program. I think a lot of you have seen that in the last couple of weeks. You've heard from us on Code Red, you've seen it on social media, you've seen our use of all of these multifaceted parts of communication. It's critical that we as an administration communicate with the public, communicate with town meeting members, and make sure that you know what we're doing, you know how to reach us if you have questions, and we keep you informed on all the projects. Community events, we run our signature community events. Summer in the Park concert series is going to start, I think the date is June 9th. This year, wanted to announce we're really excited. We thank Kristen Pappas for her work on this, and Eileen in the Department of Development and Inspectional Services. They've been working very hard with the Packagug Church. This year, we're going to start a farmer's market every Thursday on the same nights as the concerts. And it's going to start in, I think, June 20th and go through August 29th, I believe. Every Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Pappas Complex. So exciting because we're hoping that as people come to the concerts, some concerts get between 200 and 500 people. People will also go to the farmers market. We're able to get more farmers by doing that. So we're really excited about that program. I wanted to point out green initiatives really quickly because these are cost-saving initiatives. We're in the 4th year now of our municipal aggregation program. We continue to go out to bid and get rates for our residents that are below that of the national grid. Since we've been designated as a green community back in 2012, we received almost $1 million worth of grants, the most recent being the LED light purchase. Our net metering credit agreement is finally starting to provide the credits to us. In a period of 35 months, we realized a savings of almost $500,000, and we continue to partner with National Grids on our Homeworks Energy program. Continue with public policy and advocacy. It's critical that we make sure that we make our voices heard at the state and local and federal level. So our local delegation, our congressman, our senator, our state representative have been wonderful. They advocate for us. We also advocate for and against legislation that we feel is either going to be detrimental to the town or advantageous to the town. So we've got to stay on top of this. Grantsmanship, just want to point out a couple of things. We're very active in grants. Since 2011, the town has applied for 251 grants totaling $14.7 million. Of that, we received 211 of those grants totaling $4.26 million. In 2018 alone, calendar year 2018, we applied for 41 grants totaling $3.5 million. We received 24 of those totaling $762,827. 12 are still pending and 5 were denied. Number of public safety grants, I won't go into them all, but we've been very active with public safety, emergency management, and economic development. And lastly, strategic community partnerships. I just want to mention again, it's really important that we work closely with the business community. We're grateful for the partnerships we have with the school department, the Chamber of Commerce, Auburn Mall, a number of our businesses, Home Depot, Republic, Masterman's, Polar, Central One, Auburn Industrial Park, WRTA, Stearns Electric, Bank Hometown. All of them have at some point participated, sponsored, or provided donations for our concert series, for our programs, for our events. They're really active in the community, and without it, we wouldn't be able to do all the things that we can do. And I just want to make sure that I thank, again, all of our town meeting members for all of your time, for your calls and your questions, and for coming to the meetings. We're trying to have more meetings for you prior to the meeting so we can give you an opportunity to ask questions and understand what the articles are that are before you if they're new. I want to thank the Board of Selectmen, the School Committee, the Finance Committee, the Auburn School Department, all of our boards and commissions, our volunteers, the business community, and it's always listed as last, but it's always first in my heart, the town employees. Thank you. Did I do it? Thank you.
Thank you. Article 2, to see if the town meeting will vote to fix the salary and compensation of elected town officers or act on anything relative thereto. There is a motion.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. Dan Diamond, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to fix the salary and compensation of elected town officers for fiscal year 2019 as follows. Town Moderator, $296. Selectman Chairman, $1,740. 4 Selectmen, $6,097. And Town Clerk, $73,078.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any discussion? Not seeing any? All those in favor, please raise your hands. Those opposed? We have one opposed, so let's take the count on this. Oh, wait a minute, this is a majority, okay. I was thinking 2/3. Okay, then it is a vote. Article 3, to determine what sums of money the town meeting will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or otherwise provide for and appropriate to defray charges and expenses of the town, including debt and interest, and to provide for a reserve fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Ms. Holmstrom.
Kim Holstrom, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or otherwise provide for and appropriate to pay town debts and charges for the ensuing year, the several sums of money in the proposed budget as stated in the recommendation of finance columns on pages 12 through 57 inclusive of the Town of Auburn FY 2020 budget and annual town meeting warrant totaling $65,924,851, and to raise said sum by transferring from available funds $15,000 from cemetery lots and graves, $25,000 from pension reserve, $3,000 from Wetlands Fund, $40,000 reserved for appropriation dog licenses, $50,000 reserved for appropriation Casella host agreement, $875,000 from reserve for appropriation ambulance, $12,000 from overflow trash bags, $85,234.25 from high school, middle school debt reserve, $5,000 from perpetual care, and by raising and appropriating or otherwise providing for the balance of said funds, each total amount as printed in the recommendation Finance Committee column of the 2019-2020 budget to be considered a specified departmental appropriation, and further, that the Finance Committee is authorized to transfer between the individual accounts which total any specific appropriation when requested by a department, and the committee feels such transfer is in the best interest of the town.
Is there a second? Mr. Kazanovich.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, new town meeting members, my name is Ed Kazanovich, Chief Financial Officer, Assistant Town Manager, and Town Accountant. So what I'm about to present to you is the financials for Article 3, the operational budget for FY 2020. And I also recognize that this is a lengthy warrant, and we'll try to get through this as quickly as possible, but I can't speak as quickly as town manager, so I'll try to move this along as quickly as I can. So in summary, on the summary page, we have total appropriations of $69,725,299.72, with total revenue sources equaling the same. We're presenting a balanced budget to you tonight. In summary, on the local receipt side, the change from the current fiscal year is an increase of $241,000 roughly, a 2.51% increase. State aid cherry sheet increase of $864,599. It's a 6.44% increase. Our tax levy, we are estimating an increase of just about $1.5 million or 3.80%. Our debt exclusions is going down. This is money we raised for the Auburn High School and the Auburn Middle School by voter approval, down $108,000 or 3.56%. And our available funds, we're expecting a decrease of roughly $900,000, decrease of 35.26%, for total revenue increase of roughly $1.6 million and 2.35%, and likewise on the appropriation side. Breaking down the revenue, we expect to raise in tax levy revenue about $41 million. That's going to result in total real estate Prop 2.5 utilization of 93.66%, or roughly $1,050,000. We're currently using an estimated new growth value of $450,000. Although our new growth 5-year average is $705,736. This budget, once again, according to the financial policies, uses 1/10 of Prop 2.5 towards our capital budget, which is Article 4, about $112,000. And we're also raising about $2.935 million outside of the levy debt exclusion vote for the Auburn High School and Middle School debt. Here is a bar graph on our 5-year growth for real estate tax. As you can see, FY19 was 656, although the 5-year average is 705,000. We're using 450,000 at this time. Also, we're utilizing 88.34% of the total taxable levy, leaving an excess levy of about 11.66%, or just a little over $5.4 million. As you can see, since 2011, this is a level of taxation that we built into the budget. This is something that we present to town meeting every year. As the chairman of the Finance Committee indicated through his presentation, the current fiscal year, we only charged 0.74 out of 2.5. This budget, right now, utilizes 2.36% out of 2.5. But more importantly, over that 9-year period, we saved the taxpayers about $28.5 million by not taxing to the limit. Continuing on with the revenue for 2020, on the cherry sheet, we're expecting $14.3 million. This uses the governor's proposed state aid numbers at this point in time. This will result in a cherry sheet revenue increase of about $864,000. We're expecting, under the governor's proposed budget, a 2.7% increase in unrestricted local aid. We're just shy of $48,000. It estimates an increase in Chapter 70 of $770,964, although the House Ways and Means Committee numbers have been released, which would give us an additional $17,884. And the Senate numbers won't be known until sometime in the next couple of months. That's on the revenue side. On the assessment side, we're also using the governor's cherry sheet assessment numbers. It's a decrease over the current fiscal year of about $142,000. Most notably, the charter school sending tuition is estimating an increase of about $137,000. The House budget, although the cherry sheet estimates are higher than the governor's numbers by $86,742. So that is a big gap. In the Senate budget proposal, once again, will be known in the coming months. On the available fund side, we're estimating about $1.648 million. Most notably, ambulance proceeds provides about $875,000 to offset the fire department operating budget. It captures out of SOAR retained earnings $205,000 to meet 100% of the capital needs as identified under Article 4. It provides for a debt exclusion reserve. When we go out and borrow, the premium that we get on our bond seal is reserved. That money is used to offset our debt and interest payment for our debt exclusion projects. And it utilizes $300,000 for initial down payment for the replacement of the Auburn High School football field turf, which is also built into Article 4. On the local receipt side, we're anticipating just shy of $10 million, 9.857. It's an increase of $251,163 over the current fiscal year. It provides for additional SOAR enterprise revenue, up $49,451. It provides for a proposed trash fee that is currently before the board of about $150,000 that will cover all direct and indirect costs associated with trash collection and disposal. All other local receipts are level funded at this time based upon the 2019 certified approved values by DOR. And once again, we'll update these projections once the actuals are known as of June 30th. If we look at the total revenue of $67,725,299, it's broken out into the following categories. About 58.78% is collected through tax levy. 20.50 comes by way of cherry sheet state aid. Our local receipts make up about 14.14%. Our available funds make up about 2.36%, and the debt exclusion value represents 4.21%. In summary, the total revenue sources equals $69,725,299.72. That's up about $1.6 million, or 2.35% over current fiscal year. On the expense side, what you're seeing behind me is the recommendations that was voted by the Finance Committee, by department. That's also in your warrant book. Once again, if we look at the bottom of this page, it's $69,725,299.72. When we look at the expense side of the budget, I can tell you that all contractual bylaw and wage obligations have been provided for, although there is an estimate that the chairman of the Finance Committee presented in his report under Article 1 That's built into the salary and wage reserve account because we're currently negotiating contracts and we don't know what that final sum is until all the contracts have been approved. This budget provides for 13 full-time equivalent positions. I'll go through those quickly. One full-time firefighter starting January 1 of 2020, one DPW stormwater engineer, one solid waste recycling coordinator, a half a position for solid waste recycling coordinator staff assistant, a half a position, a clerical position shared by DPW and SOAR Enterprise, and 9 positions in the school department budget, 3 ABAs, 1 LPN ABA, 1 grade 5 teacher, 1 counselor, 1 ELL tutor, and 2 social emotional professionals. This budget provides for an estimated 9% increase in group health. It increases our retirement assessment by 12.06%, which is about $348,000. But we are taking advantage of a discount if paid by July 1, which amounts to $60,307. It increases our Medicare based upon our contractual increases as well as a 1.45% factor on all wages. It increases, once again, our general fund operating salary reserve account by $210,000. This budget meets all long-term debt and interest obligations that are currently in place. The budget assumes no permanent long-term borrowing for our capital needs for FY 2020. We will be seeking a band to meet those short-term needs and bond that out in future, probably the following fiscal year. The budget does provide for, through the debt exclusion outside of the levy limit, $2.935 million for our obligation borrowings for Auburn Middle School and the Auburn High School. I can tell you that our Auburn High School debt will be retired in 2024. This budget does provide for an additional assessment of 2 outside district placement students at Norfolk Agricultural School. It increases our Bay Path assessment by $17,822, or a 1.7% increase, driven by an increased student enrollment from 84 to 86. This budget does adequately right now provide for motor vehicle fuel, although a recent increase in cost of fuel to $2.80 per gallon. If that should continue to rise and hold, we may have to consider a supplemental appropriation at the fall town meeting. It level funds an annual contribution of OPEB of $500,000, and there is no current appropriation for stabilization at this time. We will make that consideration at the fall town meeting. This budget uses the governor's estimates for cherry sheet charges and assessments. This budget once again applies all of our adopted financial policies, including amended policies. The budget includes a capital improvement plan of about $2.5 million, and the CIP will rely on a borrowing of $842,000 to meet the recommendation under Article 4. Article 4, in summary, this is the capital budget that you'll be asked to consider, $2.475 million. This recap is in the warrant that was sent to you. And it's broken out into tax levy, sewer retained earnings, CIP trust stabilization, and bond proceeds. If we look at the expense side of the budget by function of government, this is how it breaks out. Education makes up about $28.1 million, or 40.33% of the total expense side of the budget, followed by employee benefits of about $11.8 million, or 16.86%. Public safety, which includes police and fire, $7.8 million, or 11.16%. Debt and interest makes up just shy of $6 million, or 8.53%. Public works, including retained earnings, SOAR Enterprise, $5.6 million, 8.07%. General government, all other departments, almost $3.7 million, or 5.26%. Assessments, offsets, CIP, outside articles, 3.8 or 5.26%. Solid waste is 1.1 million or 1.59%. And public services, roughly 1.3 million, 1.82%. And inspectional and economic services, about 650,000 or 0.93%. That equals total appropriations as presented and recommended of $69,725,299.72. That's up roughly 1.6 million or 2.35% over current fiscal year. In summary, we have appropriations equaling revenue, equaling a balanced budget, and this budget would leave about 71,048 of unused levy allowed under Proposition 2.5. So that concludes my presentation, and we can now, Mr. Moderator, you can now go through the departments as presented in the warrant. Oh, wait a minute, we have, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Schools, Mary Ellen's
Dr.
presentation.
Brunel?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Welcome, members of the Select Board, Finance Committee, School Committee, and most especially town meeting members. It's my pleasure this evening to present the FY20 proposed budget on behalf of the Auburn School Committee. This budget, just as all of the decisions that we make in the Auburn schools, is reflective of teamwork. From the school committee, the leadership team, and all members of the APS team really have played a part in determining this budget. As we've done since 2008, this budget was built off of the shared core values, mission, and vision of the Auburn Public Schools. Just as we have done since 2008, each decision we make, not only budgetarily, but also academically and programmatically, is how will this impact students and their achievement. You will see heavy emphasis throughout this budget of the strategic plan goals as outlined by the nearly 140 school and community representatives who came together in November of 2017, identifying the priorities of what we need to do to continue to be sure that our students are prepared to embrace the opportunities and challenges of a changing world. As an interesting point, I wanted to share with you that in the Auburn Public Schools, unlike many area school districts, not only locally but across the Commonwealth, we're actually seeing an increase in our enrollment. The net increase over the past 10 years has actually been 185 students, and that's irrespective of school choice. Another heavy point of emphasis you will see in this budget is the social and emotional needs of our students. This was identified in several of the goals of the strategic plan to really address those students' needs really as they relate to their emotional, whether it could be because of depression, anxiety, abuse, divorce, various types of trauma. You'll see in here that we've put in for 2 social emotional professionals, as Mr. Kazanovich said, namely licensed clinical social workers, as well as an additional counselor to add at Swanson Road. As we do each year, the school committee and leadership team identifies priorities, and these too are very much in keeping with the strategic plan. First and foremost is student safety. We expect that students will come to school and be safe. That's what parents want and expect when they send their children to us each and every day. So not only on the social and emotional health and safety, we also need to provide for our students with their individualized education plans, as well as maintaining safety funding that is designated by our safety advisory team based on their recommendations. We believe our students deserve, as I know you do as well, to be able to work in environments that are safe so that they can learn and thrive. Second only to safety is their student achievement. We believe strongly that we need to provide our students with opportunities so that they can excel at each and every grade to not only be supported, but likewise challenged. You'll see in here that we're looking to increase and add a 5th grade teacher and grade 3. The grade 3 actually is a transfer from grade 2 at Bryn Mawr School. Due to the Department of Ed expectations for staffing, we need to add an English language tutor at our middle school based on numbers of students there. We want to continue our early college opportunities. We have a preschool program that's exceptionally high quality and that has a sliding fee scale to try and remove or at least minimize financial barriers. We have beyond and before and after school programming, as well as our unified sports program that I shared with you last year, had us at a championship school. Class size, as I had stated, is also a priority. The school committee has set a goal to have 25 or below in classes, so transferring a teacher from grade 2 to 3 and adding a 5th grade teacher will allow us to do that. Technology remains a priority, so through our capital improvement funds, FF&E funds, the furniture, fixture, and equipment from the middle school, as well as school choice and grant funds, we actually have a one-to-one program, as I've shared previously, at grades 6 through 12, and grades 3 through 5 have it, but they keep those in school, and it's basically a 1-to-2 environment at our primary levels. Maintaining current textbooks is a priority. We want to make sure that our students have current materials in front of them on a daily basis, with social studies being the focus as those new frameworks have just been updated and released. In educator evaluation, we hold ourselves to high standards in the district. The learning walks that we have been doing for a number of years will continue, and we believe as a leadership team it really deepens our discussions around teaching and learning. Just as we expect our students to be working hard and excelling at high levels, so too do we expect our teachers to do the same. And in order to do so, we need to put funding towards professional development. We have a high-quality team in place, and we want to be able to support them so that they continue to maintain that level of excellence. And then strategic plan implementation, as I started. So this budget, as most decisions in the district, are really driven by what is it that the community, all of you, school and community representatives said that we need to continue to do, and we believe this budget does just that. So in summary, these are the positions that we are seeking to add. I've noted them, I'll just go through quickly. So at Swanson Road Intermediate, a grade 5 teacher and a counselor. At Bryn Mawr, we need to add, based on IEPs for students with special needs, 3 ABAs, as well as we're looking to add a split position for a permanent sub to provide continuity at our primary levels if staff are out for long periods of time. For fine arts, we have a strings program that started, I'm going to actually show you something in a moment, a few years ago at grades 3 through 5, and we want to expand that as it goes up to the middle school. Based on a need for a student incoming at the preschool, we need to bring in, it'll be a shared position of an LPN, licensed practical nurse, and an ABA. The EL tutor I mentioned previously at Auburn Middle School, and then the 2 social emotional support professionals. In total, important for you to know, is $2.76 million is used in this budget as offsets, whether it's from grant funds that we have written, school choice, Medicaid, any and all revolving accounts, really to try and minimize the impact to the taxpayers of Auburn, sincerely appreciative of the support that we receive. So in total, the Auburn Public School budget request is $26,934,157, which represents, as Mr. Kazanovich said, a 4.2% increase over the approved FY19 amount. Each year, I've shared with you, and I state and believe it to be true, and I know that I'm a biased individual as the superintendent, but I'm very proud of the work that goes on here. And I talk about the fact that our students achieve at high levels academically, and they perform at high levels athletically and musically and dramatically, that we are committed to community service, and that we really try to shine not only locally, but in the area and across the state. So I have 3 short video clips that I'd like to share with you, each about a minute or less, that I think highlight some of the things that go on in our schools that you may not get to see on a daily basis. So this first one, I mentioned that we have a strings program at grades 3 through 5 that started 3 years ago. These are students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade who are learning to play the violin, the viola, and the cello. And they had a concert back in early March called Stringapalooza, and they played in this auditorium with the Worcester Youth Orchestra. So I'd like to let you hear just a bit of what that sounded like. So just a very short clip, but I hope that you were proud to hear the work that those children did. It's not easy, I'm told, to play those instruments, and they really have taken it on with gusto. This next video actually highlights a student, Madison Poshkus, a senior at Auburn High. And so each year our students participate in Student Government Day down in the State House. And students write in a position paper to try and be elected or chosen to serve as governor. Well, Madison was chosen to serve as governor for Student Government Day, so I'd like to play for you just a portion of her speech.
Chair now takes great pleasure in welcoming to the rostrum Her Excellency Governor Madison Poshkus of Auburn High School for her address.
Thank you. It has been said that in order to understand where we are headed, we must first understand the circumstances from whence we have come. As citizens of Massachusetts, we exist as neighbors to our country's own history, never terribly far from a place where our framers fought tirelessly towards building a nation that they felt proud to call their own. While it is paramount that we reflect on this rich history, we must derive from it a different lesson, a lesson in determination. As crusaders of progress in an ever-changing world, we as students must fight with the tenacity of our forefathers towards a brighter future by promoting the common good. The future that I speak of will be one illuminated by the light of comprehensive civic education for ourselves and for our peers.
I don't know about you, but I think she has a future. And then finally, just as one final example, and I could have chosen many, this was actually an example of some of the community service projects that our students embrace, students and staff embrace across the district. This one most recently, a student, Delia Shea, led this initiative. She actually did it last year as a middle schooler, and just most recently collecting toys, just under 700 to bring to Boston Children's.
Hi, my name is Delia Shea. I'm a freshman at Auburn High School. And when I was 4.5 years old, I was diagnosed with a coarctation of the aorta, meaning that one of the tubes running from my heart was closed up, so they had to perform surgery at Boston Children's Hospital. I was there for about a week, and I don't remember much, but one of the things I do remember is choosing a toy from the treasure chest that the nurse would bring around to all the rooms, and it was basically just a box that was filled with a bunch of toys, and each patient got to pick out a toy. And I remember it made me super happy, and it makes a bunch of patients happy to this day. So I wanted to give back to the hospital, say thank you, and start a toy drive to raise toys for Boston Children's.
So as part of this budget, it's really hard to encapsulate all it is that we try to do. But I think that those 3 videos, or at least I hope, they give you the pride that they certainly give to me, because it's really about the students. What are we doing to provide them with opportunities to be sure that not only while they are with us as students, but when they leave us, that they're ready to embrace any opportunity that they desire to do. And that's really what we are here for. So I appreciate tremendously the support that town meeting shows to us. To just briefly go over the warrant articles, so Article 13 seeks $185,000 for Medicaid receipts. This is one that we ask for annually. It's in reimbursement for funds already received for general that goes into general operating, and I respectfully request your support. The second one is for the gym health and trust account, the interest, so that we use this for site managers for many of the public events, community events that take place at our high school. The next one is for the McKinney-Vento. These are receipts that come in typically, but for last year, they always came in the fall, and last year they came in prior to the close of the fiscal year. Based on estimates that Mrs. Worsbicky, our business manager, got from Jay Sullivan at the Department of Ed, $2,500 is actually the lower amount, but we wanted to be safe and only ask you what we believe we would actually get. It's likely to be somewhat more, not considerably. This next one asks for your approval to enter into a contract for the school bus transportation that is in excess of 3 years. We believe that by doing so may leverage us, provide us with the opportunity to leverage a better contract if we can do it for more than 3 years. So we ask for your approval of that. This next one here is one that you probably have not seen before. What we're looking to do is to get your approval to accept, to set up a revolving account that we can accept funds. This would be if we were to have, we have a number of really exemplary special education programs in our district. And there are times when the number of students we have in there is far fewer than we could have without having to add any staff. With your approval of this, we would be able to, if there was an area district, they could tuition their students in. We would take that money and then use it as a complete offset in the following year. So it would be cost neutral to our budget. In fact, not cost neutral, it could be a benefit to our budget to actually be able to do that. The next two articles seek to repurpose CIP funds that have been previously approved. As noted in my explanations to you, we want to repurpose them. The first one for the underground oil tank removal and replacement at Swanson Road, and then the second one to do some work up at the Packagug School, add another multifunction activity bus, and some additional funds towards the underground oil tank. So in closing, you know I always have to have a quote in here somewhere. Steve Jobs said, to be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. And I'm proud to say to you that just like across the entire Auburn community, excellence is expected in the Auburn Public Schools too. So I hope that the work that we are doing and will continue to do, gives you great pride. And I thank you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brunel. Are we ready for the budget? It starts on page 10. If you have any questions on any of these articles, just please yell out hold, and we'll come back to it when we finish this entire budget here. Account 114, moderator, total $296. Account 122, selectmen total, $11,287. 129, executive office of town manager, $380,683. Finance committee total, number 131, $815. 132, reserve total, $490,000. Finance department total, $660,728. Law total, number 151, $120,000. 152, human resources, $74,232. 155, information technology, $211,037. Somebody say hold? No? Okay. Number 161, town clerk total, $175,671. 162, election total, $21,585. 192, town hall total, $50,500. General service total, $1,455,978. 201, schools, $26,934,157. Police, $4 million. Number 210, police, $4,603,969. 220, fire, $3,179,326. 291, emergency management, $14,000. 302, Bay Path, $1,074,885. 303, Norfolk Agriculture, $111,000. DPW total, $5,627,304. Public Health Division, waste, 433, solid waste total. Developmental Services, I'm sorry, it's developmental, my book is folded here. Okay. Solid waste total, $1,111,078. Developmental Services total, $634,162. Appeals total, $13,509. Department of Public Services, $1,151,373. 542 Youth Commission, $120,000. 691 Historical Committee, 120, nothing, sorry. Maturing debt, number 6710, $4,702,309. 752 interest, $1,242,703. 910 pension total, $11,752,264, which gives us a bottom line of $65,924,851. I didn't hear any hold, so we're ready for the question. Not seeing any hands up? This is a two-thirds vote. Sure? Okay, I'm sorry, it's a majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those opposed? It's unanimous. Article 4. That's the two-thirds one. To see if the town meeting will vote to approve a capital improvement budget for fiscal year 2020, to determine what sums of money will be raised by taxation and appropriated, transferred from available funds, acquired by lease purchase contract, authorized to be borrowed, or otherwise provided for, to fund the funds that will be made in from the funds that fiscal year 2020 capital improvement budget, to determine under whose direction the expenditures of said funds will be made, and to authorize the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, to borrow money from time to time for notes, bonds, or notes in anticipation of bonds or revenues, to be payable in not more than one term provided by law. Said borrowed funds not to exceed such sums as the town may vote in any premium received by the town upon sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of the insurance of such bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion, Mrs. Holstrom?
I move that the town meeting approve the 5-year capital improvement plan for the town manager, information technology, town clerk, planning, police, fire, engineering, fleet maintenance unit, highway, sewer, cemetery, senior center, elder affairs, library, parks, Auburn Community Television and Schools, as stated on pages 59 through 67 inclusive of the Town of Auburn FY 2020 budget and annual town meeting warrant, and further to approve an appropriation of $2,475,792 to fund the FY 2020 capital improvement program as specified on pages 58 through 67 under the column entitled Finance Committee Recommendation, and to raise said sums by borrowing and appropriating the sum of $1,103,792 from general fund revenues, $25,000 from the CIP expendable trust, $300,000 from stabilization, $205,000 from sewer enterprise retained earnings. I also move that the town meeting authorize the borrowing of $842,000 for a period of up to 10 years for the items as identified in the 5-year capital improvement plan, and any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount. I further move that prior to purchase, all over-the-road vehicles shall be marked on both front door panels as property of the Town of Auburn for official use only, and have a permanently affixed town seal, and that the expenditure of funds so appropriated shall be under the direction of the Chief Procurement Officer of the town or school department.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Not seeing any then? This is a majority, I believe. It's 2/3? Let me change my book. 2/3. Why don't we just do all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Is there a hand? No, okay. Then, huh? Was there a, no. Okay, then it's unanimous vote. Article 5. To see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of revenue to be received during the financial year beginning July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020. And issue a note or notes that may be given for a period of less than 1 year or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion, Mr. Dufour?
Mr. Moderator, Tom Dufour, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 5 as printed in the town warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? There being none, this is a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed? It's unanimous. Article 6. To see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to submit applications for any available state or federal funds, including Department of Elder Affairs formula grant funds, which funds the board determines to be beneficial to the town, and to authorize the expenditure of any money received as a result of said applications, or act on anything relative thereto. Mr. Dufour.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town meeting... Let me try that again. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 6 is printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? This is a majority. All those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed? It is a vote. Article 7. To see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell at public auction or by sealed bid or at assessed value under special circumstances any properties which the town may have acquired or may hereafter acquire through tax title foreclosure proceedings, and to sign, acknowledge, and deliver the name and under the seal of the town deeds, therefore, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Ellen
Yes.
Ethia, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 7 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? This will be a majority vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed? It is a vote. Article 8. To see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the town treasurer to enter into compensatory balance agreements during the fiscal year 2020 as permitted by Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53F, or any other enabling statute. If voted, this would permit the treasurer to maintain specific sums of money and to deposit in banks in return for banking services, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion, Mrs. Ethia?
I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 8 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It is a vote. Article 9, to see if the town meeting will vote to establish or renew revolving funds for various town and school programs in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53D, and Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71, or act on anything relative thereto. Mrs. Ethia.
I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 9 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? It is a unanimous vote. Article 10, to see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract or contract with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the construction and maintenance of public highways for the period commencing July 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Mrs. Ethia.
I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 10 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. You got the second? Okay. Any questions? Not seeing any then? All those in favor? All those opposed? It is a vote. Article 11, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate from available funds a sum of money, if it becomes available from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Chapter 90 bond, issue proceeds to be used for the repair and maintenance of town roads in conformance with the Commonwealth General Laws, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes.
Michael Boss, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 11 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? Any questions? Majority. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those opposed? It is a vote. Unanimous. Article 12. To see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $500,000 to the other post-employment benefits liability trust fund or act on anything relative thereto. Is there
Mr.
a-
Moderator, sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Moderator, Carolyn Vangel Corvo, Precinct 1. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 12 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any then? All those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous vote. Article 13, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $185,000 from the Medicaid receipts within the general fund revenues of the Auburn School Department operating budget for the fiscal year 2020 to fund supplies and medical, therapeutic, and educational services for significantly disabled special needs students, as well as tuition and transportation to and from outside placements or within the district for special needs students or act anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Me again. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 13 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? It's unanimous vote. Article 14, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $7,864.02 from available funds, which is the interest earned by the Auburn High School Gymnasium Health and Recreational Trust Fund, to offset the school department cost at Auburn High School in support of community health and recreational activities at Auburn High School Gymnasium in related facilities and equipment, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Again,
Yes, Mrs. Corvo, I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 14 as printed in the warrant.
is there a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? Article 15, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $2,500 from McKinney-Vento receipts within the general fund's revenues to the Auburn School Department operating budget for the fiscal year 2020 to fund transportation for students to and from school who have become homeless during the fiscal year or act on anything relative thereto.
Mr.
Is there a
Moderator,
motion?
Greg Bowling, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate $2,500 from McKinney-Vento receipts within the general fund revenues to the Auburn School Department operating budget for fiscal year 2020 to fund transportation for students to and from the school who have become homeless during the fiscal year. And that is it.
Any questions? Any question, excuse me, is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Not seeing any? All those in favor of Article 15, raise your hands. All those opposed? It is a vote. Article 16, to see if the town meeting will vote regarding the following regularly required authorizations or actions under Massachusetts General Laws. Chapter 30B, Section 12. Authorize the Auburn Public School Department, pursuant to the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30B, Section 13, as amended, to enter into contracts in excess of 3 years duration for school bus transportation, subject to the appropriation and all other approvals as may be required by law regarding any such contracts, or act on anything relative thereto. Yes.
Mr. Moderator, Deb Valentine, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 16 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? It is a vote. Article 17, to see if the town meeting will vote to accept Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 71, Section 71F, pertaining to the non-resident or foster care student tuition, which authorizes the Auburn Public School Department to accept and deposit with the town treasurer in a separate account such tuition payments for non-resident students and state reimbursements for foster care children, which then may be expended by the school committee without further appropriation for expenses incurred in providing education for such students, or act on anything relative thereto. Yeah, is there a motion?
Sarah Libby, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 17 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second? Any discussion? Not seeing any? All those in favor? All those opposed? It is a unanimous vote. Article 18, to see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 15 of the May 1st, 2018 town meeting, Packagug Building Rehab, account number 302-017-581752 as follows. Authorize the amount of $127,685 to be used for purposes of removing the underground oil tanks at Swanson Road Intermediate School, 10 Swanson Road, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, Bob Moffett, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 18 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any discussion? Not seeing any. Hands up. This is a 2/3 vote. So when we say all those opposed to it, raise their hands, if you're opposed to it. All those in favor? That's a unanimous vote. Article 19. To see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 4 of the May 2017 town meeting, Packagug Building Rehab, account number 302-018-581840, in the amount of $193,000 as follows. First, to authorize the amount of $60,000 to remain, but repurposed for the Univent upgrades at Packagug. Next, authorize $55,000 to be used for the purchase of a multi-function school activity bus for use by the district. And finally, to authorize the amount of $78,000 to be used for the purposes of removing the underground oil tank at the Swanson Road School, or act on anything relative thereto. Yes.
Deb Kozik, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 19 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? We have a question by somebody, yes.
Danny Lodges, Precinct 4. Why is this on two different articles on the oil tank? Why is it not on one article? I was kind of confused by that.
Dr. Brunel?
We actually just repurposing a portion from each until we get to ample funds, and I believe that will be in FY '21. So we're just repurposing to set those aside to be able to do it in a couple of years.
So it just can't go on one article?
Correct. We're repurposing. We didn't have enough to do it from either, I believe. We took 127,000 from one article and then 78 from the other.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Brunel. Any other questions? Not seeing any then? This is another 2/3 vote. All those opposed, please raise your hand. All those in favor? It's unanimous vote. Article 20, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $46,000 from the general fund revenues for the care and maintenance of the Mary D. Stone School Building and Julia Bancroft Building, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, Rafi Vardabedian, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 20 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Evening, Tom Keyes, Precinct 4. Question is, do we have a date in place for when they're finally taking possession of these buildings? Because I remember this discussion from last year. I'm just curious. I know they recently got their tax credits. I was wondering if they're coming.
Ms. Jacobson?
Thank you. Yes, both schools were put out to bid through an RFP. The preferred developer was selected, and the projects will both proceed to closing upon their securing the funding that they need from the state and federal funding sources. Both of these projects, for those of you who don't know, each of the school redevelopment projects are going to be turned into senior affordable housing units, approximately 115 units between the two buildings. The projects are split projects, they're split properties, so the state only allows a developer to proceed with one project in a fiscal year. So they're moving forward this year on the Mary D. Stone School. When that closes, the next one that would go forward would be the Julia Bancroft School.
Another question, sir?
Danny Lodges, Precinct 4. What was the total cost of the sale on these two schools? Are we paying out more to maintain them than what the total cost was of the sale?
Through the chair, right now, the cost annually is, if you were to add it up, yes, it would be more than the cost of that. The bids that were submitted, I believe, and I'll go back and check it when I sit, I believe it was $50,000 for each property, plus $25,000 for each property to be contributed to the renovation of each of the playgrounds that we decided to peel off from the property. Each project, the value of the development project is approximately $19 million to $20 million for each project. So when these do go forward, these projects will be back on the tax rolls. It was understood when the RFP went out and the bids were accepted that it takes a couple of years at least to get the funding from the state and federal government. Penrose Properties, which is the developer, is right on schedule. They have submitted all the applications as they intended to do so. They most recently received an approval from the MHC, the Mass Historic Commission, which pushes it to the next step. And they are also in this current funding round for the low-income housing tax credits that they need from DHCD. So yes, there is a cost to us. Right now, there is a balance in that account. We intend to be using that to do some roof repair on the sections of the building that will be renovated, not the newer sections that will not be renovated, because that's putting money into something that would ultimately come down. But we need that money. The roofs were in very tough condition when we took the properties. We've done a couple of repairs, and we need to do some more repairs on it to keep the historic, what will be hopefully the historic portions of the building in good condition.
So it is a done deal with the company?
It is. They bid on it through a 30B process. There was an agreement that was made for this developer to move forward on it, and they've done everything that was required of the bid and of the development agreement.
So why can't we turn the maintenance over to them?
Because the town still owns the property.
It's just...
The town will own the property until the funding is in place for them to purchase the property. It's part of the state and federal funding application
I
process.
think $50,000 and we're forking out well over that to maintain them. I mean, this is year 4? Year 4 at that amount of money.
Correct.
We're
This is-
already in the hole.
This is also pays for the insurance, which the insurance on the properties does go up when a property is vacated. And again, this went out to bid under a 30B process. It went through an entire community process. It went through an advisory committee. It went through the Board of Selectmen. It's gone through several processes where everybody had agreed that this was the ultimate end use that we wanted to see, but we recognize development projects take time. They do not turn over overnight, especially when there are multiple funding sources that have to be pieced together to make this work. Again, each project is $19 to $20 million. We're talking about $40 million worth of redevelopment.
So isn't there a way to get reimbursement for the upkeep?
Actually, Penrose did help us with the roof a couple of years ago when this first happened and the roof was in difficult condition and they hadn't even already been making an investment into the property. They did do some roof repairs for us, and we're working with them right now to see if we can share the cost of some additional roof repairs that are needed. We're looking at 3 different scenarios for the roof repairs. It appears that the best one for us is going to be some type of a rubber treatment cover on the that's secured on the top of the buildings. It will hold Mary D. Stone for probably at least a year. We're probably going to have to do something a little bit more to Julia Bancroft because that's going to be about a year behind Mary D. Stone in the funding cycle.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Not seeing any then? It's a majority vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It is a vote, unanimous. Article 21, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate the sum of $200,000 from Community Access Enterprise retained earnings for the reconstruction/renovation of the Camp Gleason Meeting Hall for government meetings and community-related activities, or act on anything relative thereto. Yes.
Carla Morano, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 21 as printed in the warrant.
We have a motion. Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Not seeing any of those. All those in favor? We raise the majority vote. Raise your hand. All those opposed? It's a unanimous vote. Article 22, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $33,000 from the general fund revenues for the purchase of a new hosted email solution for the town of Auburn, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Yes, Rocco Morano, Precinct 5. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 22 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? We have one. Yes, sir.
Tom Keyes, Precinct 4. Just curious, is there a regulatory reason why we're purchasing a hosted solution versus something a little more off-site managed?
Mike Marino, our IT director, is working his way down, and he'll answer that question for you.
Hello, Mike Marino, IT Director. This is a hosted solution as in a cloud-hosted solution, so it is an off-site.
Okay.
Is that what your question was?
I was just wondering why we're purchasing an email solution as opposed to, license for something, I know they've made inroads for Gmail for government agencies and whatnot, so.
Yeah, the current one that we have is reaching its end of life, so we need to move to a new one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Not being any, this is, I didn't see it. So you were hiding behind him, Tom.
Mark's too tall. Please. Tom Dufour, Precinct 5. actually, the comment about the end of life was appropriate to the question I had, which was, how long do we anticipate this solution lasting, and what type of upkeep costs would we be looking at during that time frame?
This hosted solution is indefinite. As far as upkeep costs, it's based off of user licensing, so depending on the number of users that we have. Right now, it's roughly about $17,000. Is that a good question? Dollars, sorry.
Thank you. Anybody else? It's a majority vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising their hands. All those opposed? It's a unanimous vote. What? Oh, there was, I didn't see the hand up. There's one opposed? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up. Article 23. To see if the town meeting will vote to adjust the factors of the property tax exemption for senior citizens under Massachusetts general laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41C, as amended by the Chapter 184-51 of the Acts of 2002 by reducing the requisite age of eligibility to 65, increasing the gross receipts limits if married to $30,000 and whole estate limits to $55,000, and increasing the gross receipts of whole estate limits by an equal value on the Consumer Price Index each year as determined by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, to be effective for exemptions granted for any fiscal year beginning on or after July 1st, 2019, or act on anything relative thereto. Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, Joe Richards, Precinct 2. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 23 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Not seeing any then? Oh, this is a majority vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous. Article 24. To see if the town meeting will vote to adjust the factors of the property tax exemptions for senior citizens under Massachusetts general laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41C, as amended by Chapter 184-51 of the Acts of 2002, by increasing either or both the amounts contained in the first sentence of this clause by up to 40% thereto, to be effective for the exemptions granted for any fiscal year beginning on or after July 1st, 2019, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 24 as printed in the warrant.
Thank you. Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Not seeing any then? It's a majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those opposed? It is unanimous vote. Article 25. To see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $53,000 from overlay surplus for miscellaneous building facility improvements. Capital improvements, remodel first floor bathrooms at the town hall, $18,000. DPW building improvements, $10,000. Town hall records management upgrade, $20,000. Contingency, $5,000. Or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes.
Mr. Moderator, Jeff Murray, Precinct 1. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 25 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Not seeing any then? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hands. All those opposed? It's a unanimous vote. Article 26, to see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the borrowing of $1.2 million to fund non-participating roadway enhancements and right-of-way costs associated with the Mass DOT Auburn Street reconstruction project, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 26 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? You have a question, sir? Yes.
Ken Frost, Precinct 4. My question is, why are we spending $1.2 million to widen the road about a foot and change the traffic pattern that was done 20 years ago? Couldn't we use that money somewhere else, like road? Our taxes will keep on going up, and we're even using, it's going to go up again this year. We should do something to get some relief for the taxpayers. So that's why I don't think it's frugal to spend $1.2 million.
We have Mr. Coyle right behind you.
Yeah, through the
Are you
moderator.
going to do it, Mrs.?
Bill Coyle, DPW Director, is going to respond, and I do just want to make one comment, if it's okay, just regarding taxes. We did have an informational session last Wednesday. We had another one this evening from 6 to 7. Just want to make sure the question had been asked by Mr. Largess, and we wanted to make sure we had the information. So the average single-family tax, the average single-family home value in Auburn of approximately $269,000 will yield a tax increase of $18.43 annually over a 10-year borrowing. So we're talking about $180 over 10 years, $18 a year. So that's the question on the taxes, and I'll let Bill explain the $1.2 million. It's actually, there are two different components to it, but neither of which is to actually widen the road. It's to do additional enhancements to the state DOT project. Bill?
Thank you. If I could, Mr. Moderator, I'll do a brief overview of the project. Hopefully answer some questions in advance. And I wanted to cover the timeline, the description of the project, and the cost. So relative to the timeline of the Auburn Street reconstruction project, this project started back in 2013 when the town requested this project through the Mass DOT. It was approved in 2014 for $2.1 million. When Mass DOT approves a project, it doesn't necessarily mean the funding is in place for that project. So over the past several years, we have been working with Central Mass Regional Planning, Mass DOT, and the Central Mass Metropolitan Planning Organization to get this project funded. We are currently slated for $3 million, 80% of which is federal dollars, 20% which is state dollars. We are on what they call the TIP year of 2020. The TIP year stands for Transportation Improvement Program. The earliest this project could be advertised for construction is October of 2020, which coincides with the federal fiscal year of 2021, October 1st, 2020. We anticipate construction to begin in approximately 2 years for this project. We are going to have a public hearing this summer relative to the 25% design plans, similar to what you've seen today if you were able to look at the plans before the meeting. At that public hearing, we welcome any comments that you may have or anyone from the town of Auburn may have relative to the project. There's plenty of time to make revisions to the project. Based on the plans that you currently see or may have seen, the estimate of $1.2 million is what's considered non-participating costs. And what that includes is $300,000 for a right-of-way acquisition. The town of Auburn is required, in order to advertise this project for construction in October 2020, we have to have a secure right-of-way. So we anticipate needing temporary easements to work on private property, and also some minor permanent easements for placement of some of the electrical components and potentially some drainage components as well. They're very minor in nature. We consider them sliver takings or easements, and the majority are temporary for construction purposes only. So we've estimated $300,000 for the right-of-way cost, which would be part of that $1.2 million. We're also very fortunate that where this is a federal and state funded project, the government will pay for approximately 40% of the cost of ornamental streetlights. So the estimate of the $1.2 million currently includes about 60 ornamental streetlights lining both sides of Auburn Street, which extends from Walsh Ave to Central Square. So the town's share of the $1.2 million would be $550,000, and the state will pay approximately $400,000. The remaining monies, approximately $350,000, would be for what's considered pocket parks. If you saw the plans, there are 2 pocket parks shown, one adjacent to the fire station property along the edge of Route 12 where we have the tree lighting, and also one adjacent to the tennis courts, so on both sides of Route 12. The roadway itself will be reconstructed from Route 12 to just beyond Brotherton Way. It will also include new traffic signals at Auburn Street and Brotherton Way, upgraded traffic signal at Route 12 in Auburn Street. If I haven't mentioned already, new concrete sidewalks, brick feature strips, and ornamental street trees. Again, so it's $3 million from the government, state and federal government, and $1.2 million is what we're requesting to fund what's considered non-participating items. And I'd be happy to answer any of the questions that you may have at this time.
Mr. Moderator, if I may add one more thing, just to follow Mr. Frost's question as to why we're doing this, I just want to bring you back in history for a brief moment to the 2006 master plan that started in 2002. That was a 4-year process, and through that process there were numerous public hearings. The master plan was approved, and the master plan identified Drury Square as a priority area, and specifically identified improvements to the infrastructure in Drury Square, improvements to pedestrian-friendly enhancements, and the need to encourage business development. In the beginning of the 2006 master plan, there's actually a statement called the Auburn Vision 2020, and we're in 2019. And the Auburn Vision 2020, again, specifically identified enhancement of business development in Drury Square, improvement of pedestrian access, safety, and walkability, and also infrastructure improvements, and specifically, the master plan identified going after state and federal funding to help do this. Flash forward to now, the 2017 Drury Square Vision Plan was a plan that we had funded through a grant from the state. We had several public hearings. It was a community-driven plan, and the recommendations of the Drury Square plan were to make enhancements to the roadway, to enhance the lighting, to enhance the streetscape, aesthetic appeal, sidewalks, benches. The Economic Development Plan, approved in 2017, also had several public hearings, also highly recommended enhancements to Drury Square. The current ongoing master plan update that has been taking place for 3 years now, every chapter in that master plan has referenced Drury Square. So this plan is in reaction to a community-driven process that actually started back in 2002, and we are trying to implement the strategies that the residents identified as priorities for this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Lodges?
Danny Lodges, Precinct 4. I just have a comment. Upon receiving the letter of the meeting at the town hall, myself and only three other town meeting members went up to sit through a 3-hour question and answer on this meeting. And it was very informative. I think it's great. We could tone a couple things down. I'm going to vote for it, but I'm kind of disappointed in not, other than 4 people showed up for this meeting. But yet, every time we come to a town meeting, we have a million questions. Questions could have been answered there. There's going to be other meetings about this. I think this is a great thing for the town of Auburn. You're talking $180. You know, I'm willing to pull it out of my pocket and pay for it right now, just so it doesn't have to get 54 cents on stamps, you know?
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Any other questions, comments? There being none, this is a 2/3 vote. So why don't we start with all those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, we have some opposed, so thank you. So what we'll do is we'll have the counters please get up and count. We're gonna say how many are in favor first, and then we'll do how many opposed. And please, keep your hands up so they can get an accurate count the first time. Thank you. Oh yeah, I forgot about. And Melinda's over there someplace, way up there. This is all in favor, please raise your hands. Linda Doherty. Joe all set? Oh, okay. Okay, now we're gonna count the noes. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, the vote is in. 74 in favor, 6 opposed. It is a vote. Article 27. To see if the town meeting will vote to authorize $2,200,000 to be borrowed to install an emergency force main bypass under Route 20 to serve as an emergency means of pumping wastewater from Pinrock Road Pump Station to the Upper Blackstone Treatment Plant, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 27 as printed in the...
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Oh, we have lots of questions. Is there somebody from the sewer department here who could answer them? Oh, Mr. Mitchell. Yeah, go ahead.
Deb Kozak, Precinct 4. I'd love Jeff to explain this, give me a little extra information, just so I know what I'm spending $2.2 million on. Thanks.
I will do my best. Mr. Moderator, Jeff Mitchell, the sewer superintendent. This is an action that the sewer commissioner, as well as the DPW director and myself, have discussed in great detail. We're trying to be proactive rather than reactive to a situation that if we ever had a problem with the force main, takes all of the wastewater for the entire town of Auburn, and it moves it from the Pinrock Station to the treatment plant. This line goes directly or diagonally under the intersection of Route 20 and Greenwood Street. So if there was ever a major break within the line, we would be closing down about 6 lanes of traffic. Very expensive. We would be looking at probably, rather than spending $2.2 million, as I said, proactively, it'd be probably double that. Anyway, emergency services, restricting the use of your plumbing facilities for the entire town. We'd have to shut down the entire sewer system. We would be running in excess of 30 pump trucks around the clock until we were able to make the repair. I know it's a lot of money, but I think it's money well spent. And again, we're being proactive rather than reactive. It's something that we'll be able to handle in a calm manner, working normal shifts rather than around the clock, overtime, and that type of thing.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, Greg Boylan, Precinct 4. So this is eliminating a single point of failure to give you a bypass to work on the main sewer line, main connection. Is that what this project would?
What it allows us is an emergency bypass. Well, what it's doing is, initially it was an emergency bypass, but most likely what we would do is we could be using this as the main line and using the old line as the emergency bypass.
Okay, but that lets it either be done on one, then you can route everything through the other one.
It's a redundant civil line.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Tom Collins, Precinct 4. Just if you could refresh my memory, I seem to recall we had an expenditure on budget last year for Pinrock. Do you recall what that was?
That was an expenditure of $90,000 in order to do the planning for this project. The alternatives to see whether we'd be directional drilling or open cut, and planning and drawing the actual plans and bid documents for the project.
Any other questions for Mr. Mitchell? I'll go one way up in the back there. Oh.
Bruce Hopper, Precinct 1. I understand that there may be a need here, but do we have any more information other than you need $2.2 million? Well, I don't take lightly approving anybody borrowing $2.2 million, let alone $1, unless I've got some more information. I understand there's a proactive need here, but I guess my question is, do we have some more information as to what the $2.2 million is going to buy us? I mean, how you came up with that money, and what's how soon do we need this? Is there You said there were lengthy discussions. I don't know who those were with, other than the two of you. I'm just asking for more information before I approve borrowing what's a lot of money.
Thank you, Mr. Hopper.
Well, the lengthy discussions were with the Board of Sewer Commissioners, the DPW Director, Town Administration, CFO, Manager, and we've all come to the same conclusion. As I mentioned earlier, that $2.2 million is a far cry from anywhere upwards to $4 million. As far as the $2 million, where that number came from was through the appropriation. Last year, we hired a consultant or an engineering firm that did construction estimates, cost estimates. Working in the state highway, the state layout is more expensive than in normal town roads. You would get approximately, I don't know what the footage is, about a half a mile, almost a half a mile of new force main sewer line.
Thank you. Any more questions?
And as far as, and if I may,
Oh.
Mr. Moderator, as far as the emergency, there's no emergency right now. There could be one in 5 minutes, there could be one in an hour, there could be one tomorrow. Unfortunately, we have no way of knowing when there could be a failure in any of the sewer lines. The lines are, it's in excess of 40 years old right now.
One more question. Yes, sir.
Bob Pachikas, Precinct 1. I think we all can remember the newspaper articles on Belmont Hill where the sewer system failed in Worcester, and all that tonnage went down into Lake Quinsigamond. Seems like it happens every year. So I think if we can protect the town of Auburn in this way, it's a good proactive move so that we don't get the black eye that Worcester gets almost every year. Think about it. All that sewerage into Lake Quinsigamond rolling right down Belmont Hill, which is horrible. I would hate to see that in Auburn.
Thank you. Anybody else? You? Hey, Jeff. Then, go ahead.
My understanding is that the system still operates under an enterprise system. They're not possible to, I see that there were transfers of retained earnings for other purposes. Is it not possible to pre-plan and appropriate some of that money towards those types of repairs?
The borrowing will be paid directly out of retained earnings. We feel that it's better to leave a certain amount in the retained earnings and then pay for the borrowing. We pay all, our portion of whatever, it'll be included in other borrowings for the town. So the sewer division will be paying.
Okay, on a typical year, what would the expected retained earnings be from the department? And would it not be better to project what those were and set those aside for the repairs rather than borrow the money?
Well, we don't, right now, we don't have $2 million in retained earnings. We're holding.
No, I understand that. That's not what I'm asking.
So I just want to draw some attention to some failures that we had last fiscal year that required that we had to appropriate directly out of retained earnings with the approval of the Department of Revenue. Certainly, we want to maintain a balance of retained earnings to meet other failures to an aging system that may occur. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the capacity to make these repairs, even under an emergency provision as approved by DOR. I think the cost of those repairs last year was upwards of $240,000. We had 2 failures. We recognize we have an aging system. We've built into the fee and into the operational side of the budget a level of retained earnings that we can expect on an annual basis. Now, it all depends on revenue as well as what other failures we may or may not have. I can tell you our retained earnings has probably been growing on the average of about $300,000 per year. And we designed it that way to address an aging system that will allow us to plan this in the 5-year capital plan to upgrade the system on an as-needed basis.
So basically, it makes more sense to borrow the money and pay the debt service out of the retained earnings from.
I guess what we could do, and I think we'd have to examine this, I know our retained earnings is probably about 1.3 million. This article is asking for a borrowing of 2.2. Certainly, we would not want to wipe out our retained earnings to cover a large majority of this cost. I think, given their interest rates that are still relatively low, it makes sense to borrow for a long term. We also get a reimbursement under the sewer rate relief fund from the state for a portion of this cost. If and only if we borrow those funds, they wouldn't be eligible under retained earnings type situation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One more question. Michael Marin, Precinct 3. So I think trying to wrap my head around mitigating risk and borrowing money to mitigate that risk for a future failure, it seems to be predictive. Do we not have any municipal insurance for failures like this, or is that not even an option for municipalities? Because if we're borrowing money to mitigate risk for what might happen, 2.2 million is a lot of money to pull out at any interest rate. And I understand that Worcester looked into that after their failure. And so I, for one, would rather make an investment on, in case things happen, to have municipal insurance to back that up, rather than put out extended borrowing. And I don't even know if that's even possible to insure against a risk like that in a municipality. But if it is, I'd be interested in us looking into that.
Mr. Kazanovich?
We actually looked into the insurance aspect of coverage as it applies to residential homes. And it is very costly, and when it comes down to assessing the damage, it always reverts back to the maintenance, level of maintenance that has been supported and applied by the town over a period of years. My guess is it would not be insurance coverage for a failure such as this. It's something we can look into, but I don't believe it's available.
Mr. Coyle?
Mr. Moderator, I just want to add that the Pinrock Pump Station is the last pump station as all the town sewage leaves the town. Approximately 2 million gallons per day flow through that pump station. In the past, when we've had breaks, we've been able to isolate these breaks and shut down individual pump stations. There's 12 other pump stations in town. We're able to shut down a pump station and manage that. This would not be manageable. We would need 30 septic haulers on site immediately. In the past, when we've had breaks, we've struggled to get 10, which means all of these sewage would then flow into the Blackstone River ultimately. And we'd have major fines from DEP, I'm sure, as a result of it. So this pump station leaves Pinrock and travels towards Greenwood Street in Worcester by McDonald's, goes under Route 20 to go to the treatment plant. We would not be able to bypass over Route 20 because of the traffic. So this provides a redundant or parallel line alongside the existing line, which is aging. If that line were to break, we would have no way of bypassing that flow. So that's why this is a priority, more so than the rest of the system within town, because we are able to find a way of bypassing that and isolating through different pump stations. But this is the last station from town. Thank you.
Mr. Bergeron, do you have a question?
Norm Bergeron, Precinct 1. 2.2 is a lot of money, but are we utilizing that tunnel that goes from like Leesville Pond for this? That's where I'm losing you on where this is coming from.
We're actually down at Greenwood Street and Route 20, down by McDonald's. Well, further up Route 20.
Problem is the proximity of the pump station compared to the treatment plant, and the direction that the force main runs now is what we'd be following, would be, like Bill had said, further towards Worcester.
So you're not utilizing that?
No, we can't, unfortunately.
That's what I hope we do.
We looked at it.
Thank you. Are we ready for the vote? Oh, wait, I got somebody up in the back. Is that Mr. Hopper again?
Bruce Hopper, Precinct 1 again. I'm all in on this for being proactive. I'm just confused. And I understand we as town meeting members aren't privy to all the discussions, but I'm just trying to figure out, is there other options to fund this thing, or is this the only option we have, is to borrow 2.2 million? Because you talked a little bit ago, we'd look into other things. So my concern is, are we just jumping too quick to say, oh, we have to borrow the money, or do we have other options on how to fund this?
From the perspective of cash flow, the only way to meet these obligations over a fixed period of time is through a borrowing. When we talked about retained earnings, we talked about utilization of a portion of those retained earnings. It's not going to, I'm not comfortable wiping out any portion of retained earnings because we have potentially other unforeseen and other expenses that may arise during the course of any fiscal year that would have to rely on that funding source without doing a borrowing. Because those situations have to be addressed immediately. We don't have the capacity to go out and borrow without approval of town meeting. So it makes all the sense in the world to borrow for this project through a bond issue rather than fund it through retained earnings, which we don't have anyway.
And will there be a rate increase? Right.
Yes, there would have to be an increase. I don't know if there would have to be, we'd have to do a profile on the borrowing. I think we can go up to 30 years. We can go up to 10, we can go up to 20, we can go up to 30. So we're trying.
I guess that's my overall point is, again, 2.2 million is a lot of dollars, and we're talking about borrowing money. It might be 20 years, it might be 10, it might be 30. We don't know how much it's going to affect the ratepayers. That's just my concern. Again, I'm all in as far as we got to be proactive. I agree, but it's just, you want me to approve a heck of a lot of money, and we don't.
I think what we do is we examine the data once we get schedules for various borrowings to see what works best for the SOAR Enterprise Fund and what is the easiest on the ratepayers of the system.
But it would have been preferable for the data to be presented to us to approve it then. I just feel like I'm voting for something I don't have all the information that I should have as a representative of my community.
Like any other borrowings, it doesn't specify a term. In other words, the school borrowings, we can go up to a period of 20 years. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go for a period of 20 years. It all depends on the interest rate. It all depends on the amount we're going out to borrow. It depends on a number of financial conditions.
Thank you.
Mr. Baker.
Mr. Moderator, Charlie Baker, Precinct 3, moving the question.
There's a second already, thank you. Who's the second? It's non-debatable, it's a 2/3 vote, so I'll need the counters again. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Where's the counters? What happened? Okay, well, do oppose first. All those opposed, please raise their hand. We have one opposed. He's opposed, yeah, we did do a count. Yeah. One, so we should count. It's up there, Mr. Hall. You changed your mind? Thank you. Anybody opposed? There was a hand that went up, but nobody's opposed to it. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It's a unanimous vote. Thank you. Okay, yeah. Now we're ready for the vote on the question. All those in favor of Article 27 as written in the warrant, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Well, that's one, this is a two-thirds vote. Two opposed? Okay. Why don't we just count everybody that's for it then? No, we'll go with, okay, 78. Two opposed, that's it. Oh, more than that. Yeah. Would like to count the yeses, please, those, no, the ones that aren't opposed to it. Please count the ones that aren't opposed. All those in favor of the question? Huh? We need to have a count, and we need to have a count. The question passes 76-2. Article 28. To see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $220,000 to be funded through the sewer retained earnings to perform flow monitoring to comply with the DEP's 314 CMR 12.04 operations, infiltration, and inflow analysis, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Yes.
Mr. Moderator, Brent Anderson, Precinct 5. I move the town meeting vote to approve Article 28 as printed in the warrant.
Thank you. Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Not seeing any? This is a majority of vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those opposed? It's a unanimous vote. 29, to see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to submit legislation to amend the acts of 1963, Chapter 708, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Bobby Baker, Precinct 3. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 29 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Not? Yes, sir. John.
John Stencil, Precinct 5. What does that mean?
Mr. Coyle, or Mr. Mitchell?
Is that what you're asking? What it does is, this is authorizing the Board of Selectmen to, the acts of 1963 is, it's called an enabling act. It was legislation that was established to form the sewer system and the sewer department back when they, in the infant stages of it. And what we are looking to do right now is, the language is so antiquated that in order for us to make amendments. The main thing is to make amendments to our regulations. The way it's stated in the legislation is that we have to print the amendments as well as the changes, as well as the existing language in the legal ad of a newspaper. So in order to make a one-paragraph amendment, it's upwards to $500-600 for advertisement. So what we're looking to do is to update the language, which would allow hard copies to be available at the clerk's office, online, through the website, and that type of thing.
Any other questions? Not seeing any, this is a majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, it's a unanimous vote. Article 30, to see if the town meeting will vote to abandon the permanent and temporary sewer easements identified as PE-26 and TE-21 on a plan recorded at the Worcester District Registry of Deeds in Plan Book 352, Plan 56, and to accept in place thereof a permanent 30-foot wide sewer easement granted to the town of Auburn by Acorn Allocations LLC, a Massachusetts limited liability company with a principal place of business at 714 Main Street, Shrewsbury, Mass. Said easement being a portion of the premises conveyed by the town of Auburn to Acorn Allocations LLC by a deed recorded in the Worcester District Registry of Deeds Book 56606, page 308, and shown on a plan prepared by Thompson Liston Associates Incorporated, dated May 30th, 2018, and available for inspection and review in the town clerk's office, and with the grantor responsible for payment of any and all costs, including recording fees associated therewith or anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Jeff Labonte, Precinct 1. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 30 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Not seeing any then? All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those opposed? It's a unanimous vote. Article 31, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $23,000 from the ambulance reserve from appropriations account for the purpose of providing cancer screening for members of the Fire Rescue Department or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion on Article 31?
Mr. Moderator, Mary Ellen Paquette, Precinct 2. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 31 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. All those, excuse me, is there any discussions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. It's a majority vote. All those opposed? It is a vote, unanimous. Article 32, to see if the town will vote to amend the Auburn zoning bylaws so as to establish a new zoning district, Drury Square Village District, by inserting a new Section 12 with associated revisions as printed in the warrant, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Eric Berg, Precinct 1. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 32 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any? Not seeing any? This is a 2/3 vote. All those opposed? One opposed over here? That's what I see. Okay, we're going to have to count again because we have to have a vote up here, a total up here, for and against. All those in favor, please raise your hand. The article passes 73 to 1. Article 33 now, I believe, is next. That can be found on page 98. All set? Okay. To see if the town meeting will vote to amend the Town of Auburn zoning bylaws to include a provision for a tiny house unit allowing mobile tiny homes as printed in the warrant. Is there a motion on Article 33?
Mr. Moderator, Jonathan O'Brien, Precinct 4. I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 33 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? We'll go with Mr. Lodges first, I guess.
Mr. Moderator, Dan Lodges, Precinct 4. I'd like to make an amendment on this to get rid of the language about the setbacks and the placement requirements. It's 13.5.8 and 13.5.9. And also, after receiving a letter from the petitioner, I took it upon myself to take a ride by the neighborhood. I did happen to see that they were out. I stopped, talked to them for about 20 minutes, half hour. I saw what their plans were and what they wanted to do, and I really don't see an issue with it. And God forbid, none of us are going to need the situation that they're in. So I'm a positive vote on this one.
You want to amend this, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
13.58 and 13.59
What do you wish to amend
on
them
the
to?
placement.
What do you wish to amend them to?
The
We're going to need this in
placement.
writing.
To remove the words of the placement.
Have to write it out.
Anybody got a bar napkin or anything?
You got paper. Yes? What? Why two separate votes?
Mr. Moderator, Adam Menard, the town planner. If I can address the setback requirements that were put in the proposed bylaw. The 20 feet was recommended by fire, police, DPW, building commissioner, as a way to separate the buildings in case of emergency and to lessen the risk of possible fire spreading from one structure to the other. And also the setbacks, if we remove the setbacks, they won't be in keeping with the nature of the current bylaws we have. So they won't be keeping with the current neighborhood recommendations.
Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members. Steve Coleman, your fire chief. I would recommend against amending these two specific articles. As the town planner had stated, the 20-foot, well, first off, it's a 10-foot setback on any other residential property 20 feet from the road. So if we just completely eliminate any setbacks relative to the tiny homes, then these are not going to be consistent with any other residential units that we have.
Point of order. Has there been a second on the amendments even warrant discussion?
Yeah. We don't have an amendment yet. He's still writing it out.
We're having a discussion on an amendment that doesn't have a second.
This is here? The amendment is, I would like to leave wording removed of placing, of setting the placement off requirements. I don't. I would like to leave the wording removed of placing, of settings, placement of requirements. You know, I'm sure, I don't follow this. And if there's somebody from the planning board here, or the town planner, I would like them to take a look at this and tell me if it's correct. I just want to make sure that we don't upset, this will, if it goes to the Attorney General, that this wouldn't turn it down, that's all. Or when it goes.
I think this will have to be rewritten to comply with any requirements of the Attorney General with respect to approving ultimately of a bylaw.
We're gonna get a second on it now. We have a second. Okay, the amendment is asking to remove all setbacks. Do we have a second on that? I don't see a second on it. I don't see a second. So we're back to the original motion. We're back to the original motion. Yes, sir.
I just want to maybe hear from the selectmen. I mean, we've addressed the in-law situation.
Would you move
We used to have
closer to the
just
mic?
It just used to be a two-family in our bylaw. We didn't have an accessory apartment for in-laws. A few years ago, we did address it. We have an accessory apartment now where you can have an in-law apartment, which you don't have to have it classified as a two-family. I just don't see the need for this particular bylaw to have an apartment on wheels, which is basically goes against the prohibited parts of the trail because they're built on a trailer. I just don't see the benefit to the town. I understand this is a citizen petition, probably for a one-off situation, but this is something that's going to affect every residential zoning district in town, and I'm not too sure that why this is even recommended, but I'd like to hear from the selectmen of how this is beneficial to the town.
Thank you.
If I can just,
Yes.
Mr. Moderator, respond to some of it. First of all, this did not come before the Board of Selectmen. This came to the Planning Board. The citizens petition was put on because it was, the next article is the citizens petition. This particular one is the Planning Board. So just by way of history, a citizens petition was submitted to have a tiny house bylaw brought to town meeting. The Planning Board, the Town Planner, the Building Commissioner, several others looked at this, and including the town clerk, and felt that the way the petitioner had worded the citizens petition, while even if it did pass town meeting, it would likely not pass the Attorney General's office. It wasn't written with the proper wording to be able to pass the Attorney General's inspection of a bylaw. The Planning Board felt that it was important to have this bylaw because they felt that it was a legitimate request. They didn't want to turn away the citizens petition, so they asked the town planner to rewrite the bylaw so that it would be written in such a way that the Attorney General's office would accept the language in it and approve it. So I don't know if there's anyone here from the Planning Board, but I know our town planner is here, and if there's any additional information beyond that, but I think it's important to know the history. This is not because the Planning Board does not want the citizens petition. This is to clarify the language that the citizens were trying to accomplish in their petition, but this is to try to make it so it is passable by the Attorney General's office.
Mr. Bergeron.
Does this allow tiny houses in any single-family house lot in the town with zoning board approval?
That is correct. In any zoning house that has a single-family house already constructed would be allowed to have a tiny home if they go through the special permit process to the zoning board of appeals.
So the answer is yes,
Yes.
anywhere in town, single-family house.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hodges.
But not as a permanent residence, correct? You have to have a home there in order to put that next to it, or in back of it, or side of it, or, correct? So you can't just have a house lot and say, hey, I'm gonna throw a tiny house over here and,
That's correct. It has to be an already existing single-family household.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Bob Latikas, Precinct 1. I'm referring to 13.5.11, and I question whether it shouldn't be revised. The owner of the house may be one of the spouses. Would this preclude his spouse, his family, from using the small house? The way it's limited here to the owner of the single-family residence. Many people are single and then they get married. They own the house, not the husband, not the wife, the first owner. This would preclude and make a very unhappy home if he told his wife, your family can't use the little house.
There's a definition about the direct family member. A spouse's family would be allowed. Direct family member includes an individual's child, parent, grandparent, brother or sister, as well as the spouse's child, parent, grandparent, brother or sister. So their family would be allowed.
Mrs. Proudy will be next.
Beth Proudy, Precinct 1. I'm your old town clerk, and unless things have changed in the Attorney General's office, this is a zoning bylaw. They will not allow an amendment, a substantive amendment. So if you amend anything to this bylaw, Attorney General probably will not approve it, therefore you'll have no bylaw.
Thank you.
Mr. Monitor, Daniel Lagis, didn't we just approve to change the bylaw for Jury Square? Why can't we pass and try to approve this? I mean, I don't understand what the big deal on, it's getting to be where the town is telling the residents, yes, you're paying taxes, but you can't do this, this, and this. You know?
Well, first of all, as people have said, it has to be approved by the Attorney General.
Well,
and the planning board put this all together, and they feel that the Attorney General will accept it. Now, if we go ahead and amend it, there's a chance that they won't accept it.
Well, that's right, but let them make that decision.
Mr. Jacobson? Mr. Moderator, if I may jump in to Ms. Proudy, I believe your question is whether you can amend the zoning bylaw as presented to town meeting, not whether you can amend the zoning bylaw. Under that circumstance, our town council, Bob Hennigan, is in the back of the room, and I'd like to have him come down, but I believe he will tell you that you can make an amendment on the floor to a bylaw. But again, I will turn it to Attorney Hennigan, who is town council for that.
Mr. Moderator, I would also like to hear from the petitioner as well.
The petitioner is the planning board on this.
Yeah, okay.
So if we could have.
You have the
Councilor
town
Hennigan,
attorney
please.
answer that, I believe.
Mr. Moderator, the town meeting is the legislative body of the town. They certainly can amend a proposed bylaw that's being presented this evening. If that process has been presented in conformity with Chapter 40, Section 5, which it has, but as a legislative body, it's a debate, but the courts have ruled that you can, as a legislative body, amend this if you wish. There's no question about that. That's absolutely correct. But you as the legislative... That is a possibility, that's correct. But as a legislative body, you would obviously have the authority to amend anything that's before you. But Mrs. Proudy's right. How that's interpreted by the Attorney General's office is subject to their interpretation. Right, I understand.
Mr. O'Day?
Mr. Moderator, John O'Day, Precinct 5. I know the town manager explained how we got this wording by the planning board. My question is, did the planning board take a vote in favor or against the article as presented?
They voted in favor to approve the amendment as presented.
Sir?
Sorry, they voted in favor to approve the amendment as presented. Approve.
Is that Mr. Anderson?
I just want to clarify, because I think it's hard to hear over here. I'm not sure what's with the microphone, but the planning board, my understanding was they voted unanimously to support the article and the draft bylaw as it appears in front of you now.
I'm very much in favor of this of this article. I think it's very hip, it's very green. Auburn's looking to move in that direction. Climate change is a major issue, and we know that here in Massachusetts, and this is a very good way to help save the climate. I'm a huge proponent of tiny houses, and I would like to see everyone here vote yes.
Mr. Dufour?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to move the question, please.
Is there a second? It's non-debatable. All those not in favor of moving the question, please raise your hand. We have hands up, so we're going to have to count. I asked that. Anybody opposed? And he raised his hand. Oh. Are you opposed to moving the question? Okay. Okay. So now we have to take a vote. It's a 2/3 vote, so if the counters would count. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Oh, okay. It's only a majority to move it, so all those in favor of moving it, raise your hands. All those opposed to moving the question, I see one, I see two, I see three hands. Is somebody up there in the back? No. Okay. All those in favor? Moving the question. Okay, it's a majority, it passes. Now we're back to the original question. All those did somebody second that? I didn't remember a second on the vote to amend. Was there a second? No. So we're not going to vote on it. Okay. Okay. Back to the original motion. To see if the town meeting will vote to amend the Town of Auburn zoning bylaws to include a provision for a tiny house unit allowing mobile tiny homes as printed in the warrant. All those opposed to it, raise your hand. This is a 2/3. This is a 2/3 vote. Those opposed to it are raising their hands. Huh? Yeah. All those in favor, please raise your hand. vote is 52 to 23, it passes. Article 34. Yes? I don't think we need one. We'll do it. We'll do it. Huh? Recount. Is there a second on Mr. Bergeron's motion to have a recount? I got it up in the back of the hall. Okay? Counters again, please. Raise your hands and keep them up. Julie. Okay, this is the first time I can remember this happening, a recount. What we need right now is for people to vote on a recount. It's a majority vote. And then if the majority vote goes through, we will have a recount. If it doesn't go through, we'll use the count that we have. Thank you. Oh. What'd she say? Would you repeat that? From the what? We don't know how we voted. We don't know how we voted. We don't know how we voted. I have the book, yeah. I don't even know if it's in here. If you get an answer, let me know. It's not in here that I can see. V-E-C-O-U-N-T. It's not in there. It's not in there. Huh? Oh, yeah. That's going quick. It's going to go quick. Yeah. I don't think it is. Bob's right there. Mr. Hennigan? Mr. Hennigan? Okay. The motion has to be made by somebody on the winning side. And Mr. Bergeron says he was not on the winning side, so we're going to let it go. Oh. Yes, sir. Is there a second? Any questions? We're just going to recount to make sure the vote is accurate. We're voting on the motion, yes. It's only a majority vote. It's only a majority vote. We'll wait till I get this up here from, yeah. Okay, I have the motion now. I move to conduct a recount on the vote on Article 33 on the May 7th, 2019 town meeting warrant, and it was seconded. This is a majority vote. All those in favor of a recount, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I think we're going to have to count this. Greg wants to make sure that it is accurate. He wants it. Yeah, we're just going to count this. I'm not sure what. I know that. Please count this. All those in favor of the recount, raise your hands. It looks like it's split. This is just a majority vote. No. I don't know. They got the numbers. You got them? How many? All those opposed to the recount, raise your hand. Opposed, yeah. There won't be a recount. It was 39 to 39 to 36. So now we're back to the original motion. Huh? Oh, that's it? Oh. We already took a count on the motion. Okay. The original count is what we're going to use then, which was a 2/3. Okay. Now we have to vote on a motion, right? Okay. So the motion 33 passes. Motion, Article 33 then passes. I think it was 52 to 23. In fact, I know it was 52 to 23. It passes. Now we're on to Article 34. Oh, no, I got it. For those of you looking for 34, I believe it's on 101. 101. To see if the town meeting will vote to amend the Auburn zoning bylaws to add the provisions allowing tiny homes to be used as primary or secondary dwellings, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion, Mr. Baker?
Mr. Moderator, Charlie Baker, Precinct 3, I move that this article be postponed indefinitely.
Is there a second? We're postponing it. Postponing is a two-thirds? Yeah. It's a two-thirds question, so we have to take a two-thirds. That's what I... No, I didn't think so. No. Okay. Okay. All those in favor? Oh, no. So, whoa. I'll take a motion to dissolve right now. Yeah. Okay, all in favor of postponing Article 34 indefinitely, raise your hands. All those wanting, all those for, yeah. All those for, yeah. All those, yeah. Everybody who wants to leave, please raise your hand. We'll dissolve. I need a motion to dissolve.
Motion to dissolve.
Thank you. I need a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Vote. All in favor, say aye. All in favor, raise your hands. What? Yeah. All those in favor of postponing Article 34, please raise your hands. All those against? It is a vote. Second, I need a second. All those in favor of dissolving? All those opposed? Thank you.